welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. I'm Nikita Arora. Now, this is a topic that I've been wanting to cover for a while, but there's just too much to talk about and it's hard not to get carried away. But I think I'm finally ready to talk about it. And bear with me for a second and just indulge me if you will, because I'm going to begin this on a slightly scary, morbid note. So Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda minister, had said this. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this. But he had said, "A lie told once becomes a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth." And that's the problem we're battling in India today. There's a new wave in our country, the fake news wave. And it may or may not have coincided with another wave in the country. But the problem we're facing today is that WhatsApp had to carry full-page advertisements in our newspapers to talk about how to spot fake news. And while we applaud becoming globally relevant and becoming important on the global map, I think we have to be a little more honest with ourselves and really recognize what people are saying about us across the world. Publications globally have carried this piece of news that talk about how India is completely failing to combat the fake news problem. Now, we're not talking of harmless, irrelevant falsehood. Since May, that's over the last 2 months, at least 24 people accused of being child abductors have been lynched. And the police have found that all of these attacks have been triggered by false forwarded messages on WhatsApp. Now, this is one type of fake news that is actually costing innocent people their lives. There is also another type of fake news, one that's pushing a systemic political agenda. And that political propaganda is the focus of our video today. And this news tries to achieve 5 things. So one is, it will attribute false achievements to a political party or a political personality. The second, it will demonize or ridicule the opposition. Thirdly, it will polarize. It will show minorities in poor light and it will try to create an atmosphere of fear. Fourthly, it will try to redefine terms for you. So it will redefine terms like Hinduism, like nationalism, like patriotism. And lastly, all of this will translate into manipulating your voter choices. And that's why it's important to be so conscious of false news, because you don't want to base your voting decisions on false and misleading news. Now let's look at a few examples over the last couple of years that have tried to achieve some of these objectives. Now this is an all-time favorite. The UNESCO, the United Nations Economic and Social Council, has declared Prime Minister Modi the best Prime Minister of the world. Now, the moment you read a piece of news like that, it should raise an alarm. You need to ask yourself, what is the job of the UNESCO? To promote international cooperation and collaboration between nations and a universal respect for human rights. How much free time does it have to give away such strange awards? Is it even authorized to make a decision like that? Who is making these decisions at UNESCO? In the last 70 years, no world leader has ever been given such an award. But within 1 year of coming to power, Narendra Modi has been felicitated by the UNESCO for what achievement? Let this kind of news sink in for a couple of seconds before you start circulating it mindlessly. But however, that didn't seem to raise any alarms, any of these questions, because there were tweets like this. Congratulations to all of us, our PM, Narendra D. Modi, is now declared the best PM of the world by UNESCO. Just few minutes ago. What are NASA and FIFA doing in that picture? But that didn't deter anyone. Even Pankaj Advani, a well-read, a well-educated person, billiards champion, tweeted the news, saying, "Congratulations Narendra Modi for being declared the best Prime Minister in the world by UNESCO. Hashtag Proud Indian." Here's another popular one that claims, unlike other past PMs, Modi has not borrowed a single dollar from the World Bank in the last 3 years. In reality, the World Bank has given a loan of $1.5 billion to India for the Swachh Bharat mission in 2015 December alone. And totally over $14 billion have been loaned by the World Bank to the Modi government. And the plan is to borrow a total of $26 billion during the 5-year term. Now, the problem here is not that the Modi government is taking loans from the World Bank, because every world leader takes huge sums of money from the World Bank. The problem is the propaganda that makes you think that Modi is exceptional, that he's extraordinary, that he's better than any of his predecessors. And that manipulates your voting choices. It's sad that Joseph Goebbels has to come up again in this conversation, but he had said another thing. He said, propaganda must facilitate the displacement of aggression by specifying the targets for hatred. What does this mean? It means that when people have suppressed anger because of various reasons, unemployment, poverty, lack of proper health care, lack of education, they tend to revolt against the establishment. But propaganda shifts that anger. It gives them another target to direct their anger and aggression. And this next post does exactly that. It spreads Islamophobia and gives people another target to hate: Muslims. Banwari Lal Singhal, a BJP MLA from Rajasthan, said that while Hindus focus on having 1 or 2 children and educating them, Muslims are focused on how to increase their population and take over the nation. Now, if you look at the actual census data, the last available census data from 2011, it shows that the Hindu population is 966 million, which is about 80% of the total population, and the Muslim population is 172 million, which is about 14% of the population. Look at this chart. The growth rate of both the religions are declining. So even if it continues like this, in the next 100 or even 150 years, the Muslim population cannot exceed the Hindu population in India. The data simply does not support that kind of a possibility. So this piece of news is meant to polarize. It is meant to create an atmosphere of fear and distract you from the real issues that we should be talking about. The next is a fake tweet attributed to Congress spokesperson Priyanka Chaturvedi, and it read, "Only one rape has been committed in Mandsaur. It is the right of Muslims to rape. Our party is with Irfan, the rapist." Obviously, post this tweet, social media trolls went into an absolute frenzy. They started abusing and cursing Priyanka Chaturvedi, and they even threatened her daughter with rape in the most disgusting and vile language, without actually fact-checking if this quote was actually true. Finally, Home Minister Rajnath Singh had to step in and resolve the situation, but that is not a privilege that's available to everybody. But what did this tweet do? It demonized the opposition. It made them unworthy of your vote. And more sadly, it normalizes the culture of threatening women with sexual consequences on social media platforms. This is a picture of the well-lit Spain-Moroccan border, but it was actually used in an official government report and claimed falsely that it was a picture from the Indo-Pak border, which has now been made much safer by putting floodlights all across. And it was shared by various propaganda websites like Hindutva.info and so on. Now, the point of sharing all of these examples with you is to show you the real intentions behind fake news. And there are 2 things that you need to remember when it comes to fake news, because we've shared 5 examples, but there are obviously hundreds of such examples out there. One is that politically motivated fake news is meant to mislead you into believing that the current government is doing a stellar job, that the current Prime Minister is unlike any other we've had in the past. So read these amazing things that he's done, believe it, share it, and vote for him. The second is more sinister because it distracts us from the real issues. With fake news, the problem is that it gets circulated between the left and right spectrums of society, and it gets you talking. So there is one section of society that discredits the news, there is one section of society that tries to defend it, and we're busy fighting amongst ourselves instead of focusing on the real questions and the real issues. What happened to jobs, to black money, to education, to healthcare? Presumably, 5 years ago also, we were divided between the left and right-wing sections of society. But at least we were asking the government questions, not fighting amongst ourselves. When the government has nothing to show for its achievements, it prefers to avoid facing direct questions, and it prefers to keep people fighting over non-issues. So left versus right, Hindus versus Muslims, Bhakts versus seculars, and we forget to actually ask them about promises that they made when they came to power. So what we need to do is come together, stop squabbling with each other, and start asking the government questions on its promises. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe, and press the bell icon to get notified every time I upload a new video.